Hey, everybody, welcome back. It is the Razzball Fantasy Baseball Podcast. I am Beaton, joined by the Fantasy Master Lothario, the spectacled, mustachioed man of mystery, Gray Albright. How you doing over there, Gray?
Hey man, what's going on? Right now I'm in I think I mentioned before that I'm having work done on the house, so I'm in a different room again. And my DOG, even though he can spell, so I'm hesitant to spell his name, but he's in the room with me. TED, my DOG. And if I say his name, he might lose it. so 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 no talk of blank Williams, the once 400 hitter for the Red Sox.
We will try to avoid sensitive topics and names.
Yeah. And if you need to mention blank Aguilera, the Brewers pitcher from the 80s, don't do it. Yeah, so what's going on, B-Don? Let's do this, man. Let's get going. Whoa!
Yeah, man, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's start with some call-ups. Jordan Westburg was called up by the Orioles this year in AAA. He had 18 home runs, 6 stolen bases, 57, 54. He's hitting 295, 372, 567. So far in his 2 games up, he's hit 7th and started at second base. He's actually only played 7 games there in AAA this year, Gray. He played most of his games at shortstop. He played 33 games there. He played 20 games at third base as well, and he played the outfield, I think, twice. So there's a possibility that they move him around. I don't know. I feel like with the way that their infield is starting to shape up, they just need to plant these guys at whatever position they're going to be. But the Orioles are going to do what the Orioles are going to do.
Yeah, so I'll talk about Westberg in a second, but my big issue now is Gunnar Henderson going to get platooned out versus lefties? Ugh. Don't love that. Don't
No,
love it.
not a deal.
It's like in the you said Westberg has played 2 games. It's only been 1 game as far as I know, but
Okay.
maybe you're from the future. Yeah, I think Gunnar as of right now he's only played 1 at least. I think. Yeah, I mean with Gunnar Henderson in the first game that Westberg was up on Monday, Henderson was benched and it was a lefty. Man, I don't know, man. That's bad. I really I've said before in the past that platooning lefties out against tough lefties is it's not the worst thing in the world, but it wasn't really a tough lefty.
It's true.
And to play Jorge Mateo and Ramon Urias instead. Like, what? Come on, man. It's like, don't do that. Don't be that person. don't, man. Come on. Gunnar Henderson needs to get his at-bats. I mean, he is like, I feel like this season, Gunnar Henderson's sort of been the guy who's, he's been sort of swept, not just the enthusiasm and the sheer spectacle of the Corbin Carrolls and the Elly De La Cruzes and all these other prospects who have come up. I feel like Gunnar Henderson's sort of been forgotten a little bit, but he is still really good. Gunnar Henderson should not be forgotten. He is still a 270, 280 hitter in the making with 30 homer power and 15 steal speed. Gunnar Henderson's still going to be great. Okay. Anyway, hold on. I got to step down from my soapbox about Gunnar Henderson. The soapbox is labeled Gunnar Henderson. So Westberg. Yeah, Westberg and also Colton Cowser, who sounds like a British food, right? Hey, Oreos, why don't you call up Peak Freens?
Or like a superhero, like a bad superhero name.
Colton Cowser, yeah,
like Beef Man.
Colton Cowser versus the world. Yeah, Beef Man. Hey, hey, Mr. Beef. Okay, so anyway, Westberg, he is much like Colton Cowser Like what were like how long are the Orioles keeping guys in AAA? You should never have a situation where a guy is in AAA long enough to accumulate 35 plus homers and 15 steals. That's ludicrous, man. That's basically the team is asleep at the wheel. Like no one, especially at like 23 or 24 years old. Like it's one thing if a guy is like 28, 29 years old and he's a quad A player. Like okay, that's fine, whatever. But like the stats that Westburg was accumulating, it reminds me of like like the last one I can think of that was like a ludicrous AAA accumulator was like Jock Peterson. That's going back pretty far, but like I think he went 30-30 in his last year in AAA. And it's like no one should ever go 30-30 in AAA again, unless they're like 28 or 29. So anyway, so Westburg and Colton Cowser both were in AAA way too long. Westburg and Cowser should have been in the majors to start this year, if not much earlier than end of June. But we got Westburg at least, so that's good. So now my big thing with him is, because he does have good contact. He had a solid strikeout rate in AAA, good power and speed, like I mentioned, with the 35 plus homers, 15 steals. So my big thing is like playing time. So I've already said like Gunnar Henderson got benched versus a lefty. And Westburg's a righty, so I mean, God forbid he were to be benched versus righties. that would be the end of his like fantasy value. Like that would essentially just like that would be it for him. So the Orioles, in a way, are like they have too many options, which is bizarre to say. The Orioles have become the Yankees, and the Yankees have become the Orioles, and they made that transition with Aaron Hicks. Aaron Hicks is the baton.
He was the linchpin.
He's the man. He's the baton for when a team wants to become great. Like here, you need Aaron Hicks if you're going to be great.
His deal with the devil carries over the team, Gray. Like it goes with him.
Right, exactly. So the Orioles have they have a lot of options, but I do think like they can sort of like I mean this is in my head at least they can move on from Adam Frazier. I don't know if they're going to, but they can. Jorge Mateo's been pretty awful, and Ramon Urias is kind of like he's nothing. I mean, he's barely a AL only play. So they have room for Westburg, but I'm just, like when I saw Gunnar Henderson get platooned out versus a lefty, I'm a little bit concerned about what Westburg's playing time is going to be. But if, as long as they don't do anything stupid, I would assume Westburg plays every day. And if he plays every day at second or third, or even, he can even play, if he plays second or third, I mean, great. And that's fine. If he plays second, only, that's fine too. Whatever. It doesn't matter to me, as long as he plays. So I think if he does play, Camden's not the best place for a hitter, for a righty, that is. Hopefully he's able to still hit for some power in Camden. I like him. I think he's probably an ad in all leagues until we see different with the playing time. Assuming he plays every day, I think he's like 10, as shallow as a 10-team ad. If you need a second baseman or, whatever position he has eligibility for, third, I think, in most leagues, as of right now, at least.
Yeah, I would agree with kind of the position that you said in regards to where he needs to be added. And I think in regards to the playing time, as weird as it is, he's a righty and the replacements are righties. So I think that actually helps him, whereas Gunnar Henderson's replacements are all righties. So that may be why he occasionally loses some playing time. But yeah, I mean, he hits 350. He's hitting 350 in June, and the Orioles like, yeah, you need to sit down versus this terrible lefty we're playing for no reason at all. Yeah, I agree with you. I would like to see him get more of that more of that time to, actually play against lefties and just develop. Because again, he's going to be part of that team for the future, or at least as long as his rookie contract lasts, and that's about as long as the Orioles will pay him for. So, I mean, you just stick him at a position, whether that's going to be second base, third base, shortstop. I don't think it's going to be shortstop. I think that's eventually Jackson Holiday's spot, but like stick Walker or stick Gunnar at third, stick Westburg at second, and just let's start building for the future here. Let's plan it out and get it ready. But we'll see what happens here. I do think I think he's an ad though. Colton Cowser, if you're looking for prospects and you're in that type of league, I think he should be up as well in that same sentence as you said. And Connor Norby is also performing very well at AAA. It seems like they're both ready to come up and produce for the major league team, but that would involve the Orioles cutting some of their favorite low cost veterans in the Mateos and Uriases. So we'll see if that happens. And of course, Aaron Hicks, which is obviously the whole reason that they're performing well right now.
Yeah. I mean, Aaron Hicks is like the reverse kryptonite. He's where you get power. He is where teams generate power from. He's a generator, like an electric generator of power.
He's a very tall leprechaun.
Aaron, he is the tallest leprechaun in the world. Follow Aaron Hicks. That's where the pot of gold is.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Joe Adell's on like 60 home runs, like screaming, just yelling.
Joe Adell goes home every night. He hits 5 homers in every AAA game. Then he goes back to his Motel 6 and screams into the pillow.
They're just like, but you struck out in your other at bat.
Oh. He's like, Joe Adell is like, I'm hitting 50 homers in AAA. Hey, Angels front office. I'm on pace for 50 homers, and they're like, huh, interesting. I didn't realize Daniel Murphy's available. like what? Wait, no. I'm saying I was hitting 50 homers. Huh, interesting. Wow, Mike Moustakas is available. We got to get in on that. What? No. I'm saying me. I'm available. Oh, wow. Eduardo Escobar. That sounds great. Okay, Angels.
Oh man. It's so painful. It's so painful. Well, yeah, I think I'm just gonna move on, Gray. It's just gonna make me upset here.
That's for the best.
Gavin Williams was called up by the Guardians. He made his first start versus the A's, went 5 2/3 innings, 4 earned, 3 walks, 4 Ks. Actually could have been worse. He kind of got off to a bad third inning, and I thought it was going to like spiral into just him being pulled. But he cleaned it up. He got through the next 2 innings pretty completely clean, and then got pulled, as the 2/3. So almost got there. He's fastball, slider, curveball, changeup. This year in AAA, he had a 2.93, 109 WHIP, 33% K rate, 11.5% walk rate. And it seems as though he has at least one more start in the rotation as Cal Quantrill is rehabbing, and then we'll see what happens from there. But Gavin Williams, I mean, he's one of, if not their top pitching prospect. It's gonna be a tough call. Where are you at on the Gavin Williams, and where are you at in him, Gray?
Yeah, I think with most rookies, well, I guess I shouldn't say that, but at least with Gavin Williams, I do think that assuming he's not absolutely awful, even Quantrill comes back, I think they either go to 6-man, which is less likely, I think, than, Tanner Beebe, I think is probably bumping up against like an innings limit at some point. So Tanner Beebe, I could see getting put in the bullpen maybe or something, like to limit his innings because he's been up for a while. And Gavin Williams, Gavin Williams also can't throw a ton of innings this year, but now that they called him up, I don't see him getting sent down necessarily immediately. But I've been wrong before about guys getting sent down and being called up. Anyway, I like Gavin Williams. I had actually in our RCL league, I added Gavin Williams and dropped ass. I twerked. I dropped AJ Smith-Shawver for Gavin Williams before Ass was sent down. But now that he's sent down, it's irrelevant anyway. But anyway, that does just pointing out that I liked Gavin Williams better than Smith-Shawver. So I like Gavin Williams a lot. I think like you mentioned, his first start was a little bit wonky with third inning, I guess. It's like rookie hiccups. We'll see. I am much more excited in general about rookie hitters than I am about rookie pitchers. Just like, because rookie pitchers can really hurt you. they can do damage. We see the good in rookie pitchers. We see with what's going on with the Marlins, Yuri Perez. So that's what's the good that can come of it. And then you see the bad with like Grayson Rodriguez and Gavin Stone. So Gavin Williams is good. I think he could be great. I think he could be an ace. I don't know if it's necessarily going to be this year. It might be a little bit, he might be a streamer in most leagues. Like I said, I have him in my RCL league, which is a 12-team mixed league. If he doesn't look good in his next start, though, I'm going to drop him. So, I have him for now. We'll see how he does. I have no issues with picking him up and seeing what he does. I also have no issues if you need the space and you have to drop him. I could see that too. Like it depends on how big your league is. In like a 15-team mixed league, he was a pretty hot ad, I think, on my on waivers this week. I don't have it in front of me, but or maybe was it this week? I believe it was this week. Yeah, he was a hot ad. Let me see. So he went for $140 out of 1,000 in one of my leagues. So figure $14 out of 100, and then in another league he went for $214 out of 1,000. So almost a fifth of a budget for someone he went for. I think I want to say I bid like in the $40 to $50 range, but that has more to do with me just not having that much money. So it's it is what it is. I like him though. Like he could be great. He could go out and have like a series of like a month to 2 months worth of great starts. He can also look lousy and be droppable in shallow leagues. So, we'll see. I think in big picture, like in dynasty leagues, I think he's going to be great. I would absolutely hold him in like, deeper dynasty leagues for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's already owned in all dynasty leagues. If it's a, call up first part type of thing, then absolutely add him. But yeah, I think he's worth looking at. As you mentioned, there's definitely some risk with any rookie starting pitcher. So just be aware of that and, take it matchup by matchup as we go.
Is this the most ridiculous drink you've ever seen? Like what for people watching us on YouTube? Like I was at the supermarket and I was like, "Do you have any like iced tea?" And they're like, "Over there, the cans of Liquid Death." And I'm like, "This is not a sponsor, obviously." I wish it was though. If you want to sponsor us, we're available. No, but I was like, you mean the cans that look like a motorcycle gang's beer? What? What is this, dude?
I thought you were spiraling and drinking OE. I mean,
I know, right? I was in the supermarket like a giant nerd looking at the ingredients on a can. Like, what am I? Like, I was like, what is this? Sorbitol? That's not a liquor, is it? Anyway, that's a side note.
that's the side story of the week. Yeah, Gray is drinking an OE looking tea.
I'm drinking Old English iced tea.
Sponsored by LL Cool J. Yeah, that would be that. That sounds weird, Gray. But we'll move on. Let's get to Nick Gonzales. He was called up by the Pirates. Started at second base both games. He's hit seventh and eighth in AAA this year. Over 57 games, he has 6 home runs, a stolen base, 38-27. He's hitting 257, 370, 450 with a 28% K rate and a 13.5% walk rate. Nick Gonzales was like a uber prospect for like one season, and then he's kind of just been prospect without as much production, but he also hasn't been playing as much. I think there were some injuries mixed in there. All that being said, where are you at on Nick Gonzales? Is he on the Jordan Westburg, or is he in a like 15 team range?
I think he's probably an NL only, to be honest. I don't even think he's mixed league. Like his stats, at least. Like I know, I believe Itch is a little bit more excited about Nick Gonzales, but I don't want to put words in Itch's mouth. He might actually be. He might think he's only an NL only play as well. You look at like Nick Gonzalez' stats from the minor leagues, and it's like, okay, it's not that interesting. Like and the bidding was pretty flat on him in my leagues, at least in like my NL only league, 12 team NL only. I believe he went for like 70 out of 1,000, that's pretty flat for a call up. Even though it looks like he should have, at least until O'Neill Cruz returns, he should have everyday playing time. And as I say that, I had visions of O'Neill Cruz returning, and
don't break down. Please don't break down.
Oh my God. Please return. Oh my God. I can't believe I have him in so many leagues. Anyway, that was a sidebar. Anyway, so Nick Gonzales has like a little bit of power. He's in he's got good power, I guess. Yeah, he has decent power. But he's in a ballpark that isn't necessarily terrific. PNC is not the best. Unless you're O'Neill Cruz. Oh my God, return, please. Nick Gonzales looks like, he could struggle for contact with his initial call up in the major leagues. I wouldn't be surprised if he, hits like 220 with a handful of, with some power. He has supposedly he has speed, but he didn't really steal in AAA. I mean, that may not mean anything, he just may not have wanted to run necessarily. I don't know. It's hard to say, because a lot of times guys have speed, and if they just don't run, then it doesn't matter if they have speed. It's a little weird though. Like in AAA, he had 1 steal and he was caught stealing 3 times. Like AAA getting caught stealing 3 times out of 4 attempts isn't necessarily the best sign. Yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, it's not great. So yeah, I mean, I'm pretty like I'm not really that enthusiastic about him, to be honest. If it's not totally clear, he seems fine for NL only. Maybe you get lucky and he hits a handful of homers, but like in an NL only league, just the Pirates alone, I am more interested in Henry Davis. I'm more interested in a lot of guys on their team, to be honest. Like I'm more interested in Bay. I'm more interested in Carlos Santana. I'm more interested in Slawinski. And that's just looking at the Pirates lineup. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. He seems okay.
Yeah. The production just hasn't been there for kind of what the prospect pedigree has been for him. His first year in high A, he hit 18 home runs and had 7 stolen bases. He hit 300 and just assumed that was going to roll forward. And it just hasn't quite shown up in the numbers as he's gone up, but he's also gone up very quickly. Like last year, he went from, A ball up to Double A. This year's AAA, so now he's moving up. But he's also 24, so you would expect a top prospect to move fairly quickly as a college pick as well. So moving on, we have David Hamilton, who was called up by the Boston Red Sox. 52 games this year. He has 11 home runs, 27 stolen bases, 39, 25. He's hitting 255, 339, 486. He's got a 21.5% K rate, an 11% walk rate. Last year at Double-A, he had 70 stolen bases in the season.
Sorry.
It's an absurd number, Gray. That's an appropriate response. I mean, go ahead. Like David Hamilton.
We're gonna get some 70 steal guys this year in the majors too. Yeah, David Hamilton looks like SAGNOF to me. I like you did mention that he had 11 homers in AAA. So I guess there could be a little bit of power there, maybe in like, a handful of homers possibly. He doesn't look to me like, just watching him, because any guy who's stealing 70 bags, I'm like, oh, I gotta watch the Red Sox. I gotta watch how fast this guy is, because that's, I don't know. I get excited about stuff like that. So I watched him, and he doesn't look like he's gonna have much power. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was just the you never know with the pesky pole in Fenway. Maybe it's short down the line in Fenway, so maybe he can get into a few. Maybe he can get into like 5 to 7 homers potentially over the course of like a full season. Yeah, he's another one though, like for steals wise though, because steals play. Like absolutely, like I'm grabbing steals just about everywhere, because steals, even though steals are up this year, you want to be able to grab steals if they come up in a way like David Hamilton steals could potentially be there. Like he could steal like 7 bags in a week. Like he looks like a difference maker with speed. So I'm actually pretty excited about David Hamilton. I grabbed him in a few leagues. I think I even grabbed him in our RCL league, which is a 12-team mixed league. So I'm definitely interested in like every league, because steals are steals, SAGNOF, So I'm into it. I do worry that his playing time may not necessarily be there, and he looks like he could potentially have issues with contact. So I'm a little bit concerned. I'm not like 100% like, I don't think he's going to be like a, 5 homer, 50 steal guy in half a season. Like, I don't know if we're quite there where we're going to see him like, play every day and steal 40 plus bags in only half a year. I mean, I think he's capable of that. I don't know if we're going to see that though. So I'm interested though. I like him because of the speed. I just feel like he could potentially be, a guy I drop within like, less than a week, because he's just not playing, and also and when he plays, he's not hitting. So we'll see.
Yeah, and again, that's a shallow 12-team league. We have 3-man benches, so there's a lot of churning. It's a daily league, pretty much picking up and dropping some guys on a daily basis for the most part in that league. So just to give you a reference on where Gray has added him. And I think for deeper leagues, for deeper 12 teams and 15 teams, this might be a guy, I know we complained about it with Gunnar Henderson earlier. This might be a guy where him sitting versus lefties really isn't a bad thing. And, it might help you a little bit to be able to move him in and out versus, the lefties as he's sitting. But it's not great as just for overall at bats and plate appearances, which, I do think if you're grabbing him for speed, though, there's a potential for, him getting in as a pinch runner pretty much every game that he doesn't start. So you could still get those stolen bases, even if you have to play him in a weekly league where you might have to sit it where he sits once or twice that week.
Yeah.
So we mentioned Elly De La Cruz before, just kind of as a, person we're drooling over at this point, Gray.
We actually have to mention him every podcast.
Yeah, he actually is sponsored.
I was contacted by MLB. It's a requirement now. Sorry.
So here we are in our Elly De La Cruz segment, Gray. And I'm gonna.
Oh my God, he's so good, man! I watched see because I was unlike you, I wasn't on vacation. I was home watching baseball, and I watched the game Friday when he had the cycle, and it was a really fun game. Like, that the funness of the game aside, Elly De La Cruz is so good, man. Like, he's so good. It's ridiculous. Like, he reminds me of like he has the speed to beat out grounders to the first baseman. Like, it's just like it's unreal. Like, he is like one of the most fun players. Like, I was looking at his his strikeouts are at 30% as of the taping of this, and his BABIP is at 435. Now, usually I'd be like, well, you can't maintain that. And I mean, he even can't maintain a 435 BABIP, but his BABIP's going to be really high. And I think like he can, even with a 30% K rate, I think he could still maintain like a 260 average, because like you see him ground out like a basic ground out to the second baseman, and he beats the throw to first. Like, he is so fast down the line and has so much power. He's truly unreal. I love him. Oh my God, he's so good, man. He is really good. I'm going to make stupid decisions next draft season when I'm drafting him. Like, way too early. I'm going to be like, you know what? It's like, you want to draft a team you're excited about. So what? So I don't care. I don't care if I'm going to be drafting him too early. I love him. He's so good. Oh my God.
Yeah, there may not be a too early for him next year, Gray, because he may be going first round if he continues to do what he's been doing already. So we will see what happens with Elly De La Cruz. But I wanted to give
15 games and he already has a cycle. And it was almost like
it is absurd.
It's absurd because it was almost like I know it's like you can't guarantee, like, triples are so difficult to come by, but he was sitting on a triple short of a cycle, and he hit the ball in the gap, and it was like you knew he was getting a triple. Like, it wasn't even like a question. It was like, yeah, he's definitely getting to third because he runs so fast. Like, he really, I mean, he gallops, dude. I don't know if you've watched him, but he really is fast. Like, it's it's unreal.
He's moving.
Like, I don't think, like, people know the power. I think the power is known. I don't know if it was that obvious of how fast he is. Like, he is truly, like, he is, like, he gallops and you're like, wow. Like, it's actually, I don't think it's that dissimilar from Ohtani, where Ohtani, like, you don't realize how fast Ohtani is. Like, the power's there, and you know all the other skills are there. But when you watch Ohtani run, you're like, wow, he's really fast without, like, it doesn't even look like he's trying to be fast.
Yeah, I mean, it took Elly less than, I believe, 5 games to put up the fastest sprint speed so far on the major league season. Like, that's absolutely absurd.
Yeah,
that you do that fast. Like, everybody, I understand other people, having the time to get those long runs in and kind of hit their stride at right moments. Like, he's already done it. He's already been faster than everybody else, Gray. 0.4 feet per second faster than everybody else. Like, there's not a guy that's right behind him. Like, everybody else has a guy who's 0.1 right behind him. There's not a guy that's 0.1 behind Elly De Cruz. It's 0.4. That's
crazy. Absurd. That is absurd.
At that speed, like, that's ridiculous.
I know. So okay, is that the end of our Elly De La Cruz?
No. We're not done yet, because I wanted to give the people some value, because maybe they have him, maybe they're looking at trading him for whatever crazy reason they're looking at trading him, Gray. Okay, what are you willing to accept? I'm going to go through kind of the positions here, and you tell me yes or no. Like, well, we start low at third base.
Babe Ruth magically appears in the major leagues. and Babe Ruth has had a baby with Ty Cobb. Okay, yeah. So okay, Elly De La Cruz. I'd probably take a top 20 bat, like a top 3 arm. So like Spencer Strider, I think is like the best pitcher in baseball. So like he's the guy who I'd probably take. Garrett Cole is, very reliable. I would take like bat wise, Trey Turner's been struggling, but I think I'd probably take Trey Turner because it's just like you would expect the talent to be there. That's sort of apples for apples, which is, shortstop for shortstop isn't really necessarily something you would normally do. Who else? Like I'm thinking of guys who are, there's guys that I'm like, I probably wouldn't take too struggling of a bat. Like, I don't know. Like it depends like on needs. Like trades are tough because it depends on needs for teams and stuff. Like if you were to say to me like, oh, I'll give you like how about like Louis Robert Louis Robert, Louis Robert. He's doing really well this year, but he has a history of injuries. But I would take him over Elly De La Cruz because there's just a little bit of a longer track record. Marcus Semien. I'm just looking at the player rater for like top 20 bats. Like Marcus Semien, I would take Semien over Elly De La Cruz. Even though I love Elly De La Cruz, as I've mentioned many times. Julio Rodriguez, who is struggling a little bit, but I would take Julio Rodriguez over Elly De La Cruz. And then like you have other guys like a harder call would be like a Josh Lowe. Lowe? Yeah, Josh Lowe. Like I think I'd probably take Elly De La Cruz over Josh Lowe because he's starting to come down, and he's being platooned in Tampa. Let's see.
Would you swap him for Jazz? Just
Jazz,
returned off the IL?
I would take Jazz. Yeah, even though I don't love that he's playing the outfield, I would take Jazz. But on the other hand, there's guys though. I mean, I could see like Jorge Soler looks like he's doing well and he's doing what I think he's capable of doing. But I would take Elly De La Cruz over Jorge Soler.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think that's a different category of player that we're
on.
Okay.
So here I'll give you one. Elly De La Cruz or Josh Jung?
I think I'll take Jung. I mean, the power's legit. If you need speed, then I'd go Elly, but I think it's Jung.
Yeah, that's probably a needs thing. Yeah. So I mean, I like Elly De La Cruz, but there's a price. I mean, if you really need, if you need other things, or also I think right now is like his value is probably peaking. At some point, we might see, because like I mentioned, Elly De La Cruz does strike out a bit, so we might see a little bit of a slump. I don't think we're gonna, like I said, earlier, I don't think we're gonna see an insane slump because his speed is so good. But we might see his average come down a little bit. I think he's probably more like a 260 hitter, and right now he's hitting like 315. So yeah.
I mean, as great as he is, 435 for a full season. Although, I mean, it's not a full season technically but for the rest of the season, that would be pretty absurd, even for somebody with his skill set to maintain that over the length of a season.
Is this the most ridiculous can you've ever seen or what? It really is ridiculous.
I mean, just their regular water can, which is at like every single festival, is pretty ridiculous.
It's so ridiculous. Like, what are they doing? I told Cougs about, like, I got these iced teas in this ridiculous can, and she's like, oh, our, she mentioned the friend, and she's like, oh, our friend works in the marketing department of Liquid Death. And I'm like, well, she's doing a terrible job.
I think the marketing is probably the best part of it.
Actually, the marketing is pretty good because I'm talking about it for no reason. Okay,
yeah,
anyway, let's move on. Okay,
no, I have to say something now because you brought it up twice. The water, I don't like the water version. I hate it. Like, I think it tastes terrible. It tastes like they just opened a tap and like poured it in a can. Like, here, it's healthy for you because it's in a can.
This is how we entice sponsors. It tastes terrible.
Hey, if they want to sponsor, I will I will gladly drink it and speak highly of them. But they're not sponsoring us yet, Greg.
No, okay. Fair enough.
All right, so I think we've given people a general idea of where you're at. You may be higher than anybody else in the entire world, but I think that's appropriate, and I think we kind of it is by what you need and how much you kind of want the upside versus the safety. I mean, if you're sitting in first and you just kind of want to let Elly do his thing, I have no problem with that at all. And there's going to be a time where he's going to hit like 200, and it is what it is. It's fine.
Yeah.
Speaking of people who are just going to do terrible things and maybe not help us out at all, let's talk about some underperformers here, Gray. We're almost at the halfway point, so let's talk about if we think they're going to come around, if they're worth holding on to, what kind of league they're worth holding on in. But let's start kind of at the top. He came back a lot faster than we thought. He came back and absolutely crushed immediately, but that really hasn't translated. And I'm talking about Bryce Harper. He is hitting 286. He has 5 stolen bases. That's helping kind of keep his value up in regards to the play rater, but only 3 home runs. That's kind of the part we were hoping he would drop for us or provide for us, regardless of the situation, Gray. Where are you at on Bryce Harper?
I was just looking at his rest of the season projections, and right now, if the projections are correct, Bryce Harper is going to end the year with 14 homers and 10 steals. It's awful. That's bad, man. That's 14 homers and 10 steals. What?
No homers in June. He has 0 home runs this month, Gray.
Yeah, I know. It's like, that's all. I mean, what a mess. What a mess, man. 14-10. Ugh. Who are you, Andy Ibanez? Get out of here, man. Okay, so I don't, honestly, I would say with Bryce Harper, I mean, at any point, I think he can come around, because I think what's really holding him back is the health. I don't think we know necessarily how he feels like a guy who we're going to get to, the off season this year, and he's going to be like, oh yeah, I came back too soon. It's like, man, no kidding, bro. No kidding, man. Really? Wow, that's a shock. Yeah, he looks like he's still injured, I think. I mean, like it's impossible to know for sure. But I don't know. He just doesn't look right. Like, he's always been, as anyone knows, like it's not that revealing because everyone knows Bryce Harper, but like he's always been a guy who's at least hit for power. He's occasionally struggled for average. But yeah, he doesn't look right. Like, you mentioned June has just been abysmal as far as power goes. So yeah, I don't. It's hard for me to say he's going to turn it around because it's just a matter of whether or not he's injured or like nursing the arm still. Like if he comes out of the All-Star break hitting, it wouldn't shock me. But it also, like, if I had to guess, I would say like he's going to need the off season to get fully healthy. Like, you don't usually like suddenly get healthy in the middle of a baseball season. Like, it's, the grind of playing, day in and day out. It's not really the best place for him to get healthy. So I'm guessing he's not going to be 100% all year, but hopefully I'm wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I would have a really hard time cutting him in almost any league. I just don't know if I could bring myself to do that, because if it does, if he gets healthy and it clicks, then he's right back. But right now it's tough to really have him in your lineup and count on him to do much for you. Moving on, Seiya Suzuki. He's also not doing much for you right now. He's hitting 257, 340, 403 with 6 home runs. a stolen base, and 5 caught stealings for 1 stolen base, Gray. That's not the numbers that you want to hear from the stolen base perspective. I mean, Power's kind of online. I was really hoping the average would take a little bit of a kick up this year.
Who is he? Nick Gonzales? 5 caught stealings and 1 steal. Really? Wow, I didn't realize that. Wow, that's bad. I gotta say, I really liked Seiya Suzuki coming into the major leagues, but I almost feel like maybe we overrated the talent a little bit. I don't know. Like I still want to believe, but he's not giving us any reason to truly believe at this point. Like maybe the injury was like the injury that he started the year with, like maybe that's still lingering. I don't know. All I know is like you look at his numbers and you're like, he should be better. Like you look at his peripherals look good. Like the line drives don't look bad. Like the fly balls are a little bit low. But his launch angle is kind of okay. Like his launch angle is not bad. His hard hit percentage is like okay. Like he looks like he should be better. So maybe if the weather heats up in in Chicago, like the ball starts flying out like July and August in Wrigley. So yeah, maybe that'll help him. Maybe he'll show a little bit more power and stop getting caught stealing. But right now he looks kind of like pretty mediocre. Like he looks like essentially like a 15 homer, 3 to 5 steal, 255-ish hitter, which is, it's not great. Like that's not really rosterable in 12-team mixed leagues and shallower, and in 15 teams, you don't really want that, but you have to hold on to him in a 15 team.
Yeah, I mean, he started the season on the IL, as you mentioned, kind of started slow. His May was great. He hit 319. He had 5 home runs. He got his stolen base, and he didn't get caught in May, but like the time he returned and all through June, like June, he's hitting 184, 0 home runs, 0 stolen bases. Like he has not done anything for you this whole month so far. But like again, May was really strong. If he hits 5 home runs and hits 320, that's take that all day. But it's really tough to see. I watch more Cubs games than anything, and he looks completely lost right now. Like he just does it. He's just guessing. I don't even think he's reading like the pitches as they're coming. He's just hoping that what he's guessing is right. It's not great. Moving on, Justin Verlander. There's always will time win out, or is there another year in there? Well, Gray, is time winning out? Is there another year in there? So far this year, 4.11 ERA, 1.23 WHIP. The Ks are down to 20.5%. Walks are up to 6.3%, which isn't awful, but it's the worst mark he's had in 5-6 years. So for him, it's definitely out of character. Are we seeing the end of Verlander, or what are you potentially buying in and hoping to just get him at a discount? Velocity, like I don't like anything I'm seeing here.
I mean, I watched. It's only one game for it's a small sample size, but I watched Verlander last night, Monday. He looked cooked, as the kids say. He did not look right. Like he looked really bad in a way that I hadn't seen in a long time from him. Like I wonder if he's 100% healthy, because he did not look right. Like his velocity looks fine. Like if you look at his fastball velocity is down from last year, but it's within the same range as it was like in 2019 when he was still striking people out and putting together like Cy Young years. So I don't know. Maybe it's mechanics. Maybe he's just like, I don't know. I trust him to figure it out. So I want to say he could be a buy low, but on the other hand, he looks really cooked. Like he looked awful on Monday. Like the game against the Brewers, I watched like I think 4 innings of him, and he just didn't like. I saw one pitch he threw, and it looked. I was thinking to myself like I could face him. Like I could get into the box against Verlander right now. Like he did not look right. Like I don't know what it was. Like I can't diagnose like pitcher issues. Like maybe it's mechanical, maybe it's something else. All I know is right now he looks awful, like the worst I've seen in maybe 6, 7 years. So hopefully, he's come out of it before. Like he didn't come out of it necessarily during the season, like when he was really cooked with the Tigers at 2013.
Mhm.
It looked like he was over. It looked like his career was winding down, and then he came out of it with, even with the Tigers in the following year, like even before he got traded to the Astros. Well, not traded. Yeah, traded. Was he traded? Yeah, he was traded.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, he's come out of it before, so I want to say he's capable of coming out of it again. But he's also 40 years old at this point. And yeah, he just doesn't look right. I don't know. Honestly, I think if anything, I think I'd probably be selling.
Yeah, I might be. I would be if anybody wanted him, I would be looking at moving him. But just to give you a frame of reference here, he is 440th on the player rater right now, Gray. I'm gonna cut that about a third of the way up. Would you take him or Chris Bassett rest of season?
Man, that's tough. I think I'd probably take Bassett.
I feel like Bassett is the safe play there, especially if you're not chasing strikeouts. But again, Verlander's not striking out anybody right now. I think you're right that it could happen. He could figure it out. But right now, I'm not seeing it. And Bassett feels a lot safer there than Verlander does. It could just be the Mets curse just haunting him and ruining his career there. Um,
Yeah, I mean, it could be.
you know who doesn't have the Mets to blame, Gray? Sandy Alcantara.
Sandy Alcantara. Oh my God,
The
man.
guy we told everybody not to draft as like the number 2 pitcher.
I know. I will say too, I told people to draft him last year during his Cy Young year. So it wasn't like I was always anti Alcantara. I wasn't always anti Alcantara, anti Cantara. I don't know. I'll figure out the portmanteau later. But yeah, I mean, I was in on him last year when he was good. And I was so out on him this year. I mean, it was so like he felt kind of like a chalk fade in a lot of ways. Like if you weren't out on Alcantara, then I don't have much sympathy for you because he was so obviously overrated coming into this year. I didn't really think it was like that strong of a call by us saying to avoid him. Like I felt like it was pretty obvious. Like I'm not even taking credit for it. I felt like a real obvious like call to say like avoid him. But yeah, he looks bad. Like he looks, everything looks fine, like as far as like velocity wise and everything, but his numbers are just awful. And even when he was great last year, he was still only he wasn't like a big strikeout guy. So it's like, where does he go back to? Like this year, I feel like this year is not gonna he's not gonna be able to correct. Like I guess what I'm saying is he's not gonna be able to correct things in a way that is gonna make him super attractive going forward. Like he could be better. Like I could see him potentially like being like a 3.5 to a 3.7 ERA guy with like 8-ish K per nine, and that's fine. That's good. But he's obviously not commanding his pitches well. His walks are way up, and with walks being up, my takeaway from that is he's probably being wild in the zone, and his stuff isn't good enough where if he's wild in the zone, people are going to hit, people are going to hit him. Wild in the Zone sounds like an E-channel show too. Is that Wild On? Wild On. Wild On. Sandy Alcantara in the zone. Anyway, yeah, I would probably, I'd be like a small buy just because I feel like his price is so low, but also I don't think I wouldn't be buying him expecting like a ace number. Like he was never what he was last year. Like even last year he wasn't that. Like that's not who he is. He's a solid, like at best he's like Logan Webb. Like that's who I would expect him at best, which is fine. I mean, Logan Webb's a decent, solid pitcher, but he's not a Cy Young insane pitcher like Sandy Alcantara was last year.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I don't want to compare him to this guy really because it paints a bad kind of future picture. But like Dallas Keuchel had a magical season, we kind of knew that magical season wasn't going to happen again, even if he was a good pitcher. Moving forward, like that's what last season felt like for Santi Alcantara. Like that's where I'm thinking. Chris Bassett.
I remember too with like Sandy Alcantara. I was at the home run derby with Craig Mish, the Marlins beat writer, and we were sitting there talking about how like Kershaw was going to start the All-Star game, and I remember Mish was pretty upset about it because he felt like it was going to be Alcantara's one chance to start the All-Star game. And it really might have been like that's like you only get like one of like Sandy Alcantara's 2022 season was a dream season, and you don't get dream seasons often. Like that's like that's it. It could be a once in a career thing what he did.
Yeah, I mean he had a 1.76 at the All-Star break last year, Gray. That's absurd. Like how many times in anybody's career, I mean, other than Clayton Kershaw, do you come into the All-Star break at a sub-2 ERA? It's absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, that's been unfortunate. A guy that we weren't really down on in regards to his position as SP1, but just kind of where he might be drafted overall. Well, thankfully we didn't draft him, Gray, because Corbin Burnes has not lived up to the billing. The K rate's down, the velocity's down, the ERA, walks, whip, everything else is up. Are he and Sandy Alcantara both streamers now?
Yeah, I mean, Sandy Alcantara in some leagues probably is a streamer. I don't think Burnes is quite there yet because Burnes at least has a little bit more on the strikeouts. But Burnes looks terrible too. He looks really bad. Man, it's such a weird season. Yeah, I think Corbin Burnes, like if I were re-ranking right now, I think I'd probably put Burnes around like where Robbie Ray was in the preseason. Like I don't think he's I don't think he's like necessarily like a number one. I think I had Robbie Ray around like Tyler Glasnow in the preseason, and that feels about right for like Corbin Burnes right now. Because I think like you said, the velocity is down, which it is. It's still hovering around 96 miles per hour on the fastball. So I think he's got enough velocity. It is down, but I think it could still play. But yeah, his command is really wonky. Like I could see him figuring things out a little bit, but he also looks off. Like he does not look good. And the problem with like what I was mentioning with Bryce Harper, in a way, it's similar, like with pitchers too. It's hard for them to get right in the season because like they have to go out every fifth day, and there's not really time to fix yourself. So it's like him going out every fifth day, he could be fine for 200 innings, but he may not ever get right. Like it may not happen during the season, at least. Yeah, I would probably, again, it's a weak buy. Like, it's not really like, I'm not a strong buy on him. If it were, a decent deal, I could see maybe taking a chance on him if you have to gamble. But I don't think we're gonna see what we thought we're gonna get when we were coming into the season. Like that, I would not expect that. I would expect closer to what you get from like Tyler Glasnow, even though Glasnow has much more Ks. I would expect like, the occasional like, 6 inning, 4 earned runs, 6 to 8 Ks, like that kind of thing from Corbin Burnes, which is, I mean, that's fine. It's not an ace though. I don't think he's going to be an ace this year.
No, I mean it really hasn't looked like it this so far this month in particular. He has a 4.99 ERA. He looked solid May, thought he was kind of bouncing back and would build on that. Hasn't happened. It's just reverted to just, I mean, it's, like I said, I just gave you the numbers. It's been bad this month. The Ks have been up since the beginning of the season. The beginning of the season was a very big concern. It was like 15% K rate to begin the season. Or sorry, no, not that drastic, but it was sub 20, which is for him is very worrisome in any given month. It's up to like 23%, which is like what Alcantara did last year. Not really where we were thinking Corbin Burnes would sit this season. I mean, Chris Bassett or Sandy Alcantara.
Oh man, Sandy Alcantara. We already answered that one. Corbin Burnes.
Okay.
I would say.
I mean, you got to take Corbin Burnes.
I would say Burnes.
I wouldn't put him in the discussion. Let me think. Logan Gilbert.
I would take Logan Gilbert. Logan Gilbert's peripherals look better, from what I remember. I don't have it in front of me, but I'm pretty sure Logan Gilbert feels like the right call there. George Kirby, those Castillo, all. If you could only trade for Mariners, yeah, all of those Mariner guys over Burnes.
Would you take number 8 on the player radar, Marcus Stroman?
Oh man, yeah, I would take Burnes over Stroman because I think Stroman's due for regression, and he's not really he's not a big strikeout guy either. So if Stroman regresses with ratios, then you're losing a lot of value with Stroman. So I would take Burnes over Stroman. But yeah, I mean, it's sad that that's where we're kind of at, Stroman or Burnes. I mean, you weren't thinking that coming into the year. I didn't really take a victory lap on telling people to not draft Burnes, which I could take that victory lap, but I didn't expect Burnes to be terrible. I just didn't think you should be drafting a pitcher that high. So,
Yeah, but this is one of the reasons because they do this.
This is true. This is very true. This is why I tell you not to draft pitching high, because pitchers are wonky, man. I don't understand how you can get, into fantasy baseball and not like get a couple years in and not be like, wait a minute, by June they're saying Marcus Stroman or Corbin Burnes. What the hell am I doing drafting pitching high?
Why did I draft Corbin Burnes?
Look at that, Marcus Stroman
overall.
240 overall was Marcus Stroman. Why would I draft Corbin Burnes at like 8 overall? Like, what am I doing? Yeah, so I don't know. Anyway,
yeah, Nathan Eovaldi was pretty free. I'm just number 2 on the player radar. Nathan Eovaldi was pretty free.
I mean, it's like this every year too.
Right.
Like, it's not a shocking thing. It's like, I forget who, but someone in the Razzball Writers DM was talking about how they got burned by Sandy Alcantara. I was like, I mean, dude, I have no sympathy. I mean, why would you draft Sandy Alcantara? He was going at like 25 overall. Like, oh, no, thank you. No, not me, man. Wouldn't happen.
Yep, not either of us. All right. Speaking of just terribleness here, Gray, and maybe the worst of the terribleness. I mean, I feel like we kind of saw this one coming to some extent, but
I've been expecting this for a while.
Tim Anderson, 0 home runs, Gray, 0. He's hitting .236, 275, 277. Not a single one of his numbers is over three. Average OBP slugging, not a single one is over 300, Gray.
Yeah, no, Tim Anderson is actually going back. He's at like 130. He's at 134 games going back to last year, and he's only has 6 homers in 134 games. I mean, so it's not good this year, but it hasn't been good for a while. Honestly, we've been expecting the Tim Anderson crash for like 5 years. This is like all of the times I've said Tim Anderson is not as good as it looks in his stats. Like he wasn't ever, and eventually it caught up to him. You can only wrong me so many times, baseball players. you will eventually get it. Yeah, man. You know, like we're seeing Tim Anderson. I think I don't know, man. I honestly, to me he's a drop in a lot of shallower leagues. Like I could see, like I've given up on Hunter Renfroe in shallower leagues because I think Mickey Moniak is taking too much of his playing time, and Tim Anderson's still playing, but not well. I would probably lose Tim Anderson in like 12-team mixed leagues and shallower. I think you got to move on. At least in those shallow leagues. In a 15-team mixed league, I don't know. I guess you got to hold on to it. You're probably in last place though, so it doesn't even matter.
Unless you've been benching him this whole time,
yeah,
you're probably not performing overly great.
yeah.
Just to give you an idea, he is 642nd right now on the player rater, and that is with 8 stolen bases, Gray. We've talked about how much stolen bases can do to buoy you on just a player rater type of evaluation. He is 642nd. He is behind Ty Adcock, Richard Lovelady, Logan O'Hoppe, Willie Calhoun, Victor Caratini, Kyle Higashioka.
How do you not mention Jalen Beeks?
Jalen Beeks, Ryan Weber, Joe Jimenez. Like Sam Moll. Like some people are like, who are these people that you're naming? That's where we're at.
The best is he's behind Logan O'Hoppe, who's been out for like 9 of 11 weeks of the season.
Jorge Polanco played like 3 games and then got the same injury. Like he's above him, like directly above him on the player rater.
To find Tim Anderson on the player rater, I put in Anderson in my find, and I had to go past Grant Anderson, Brian Anderson, Nick Anderson. Yeah, it's not good, man. I don't think it's going to necessarily get that much better where I would hold on to him. I mean, how much better could it be? Like, what's he going to do? He's going to hit, like, even in the best case scenario, he's replaceable in shallower leagues. So yeah, I would lose him.
As a best case scenario, he does everything he's ever done. That's 8 home runs.
Yeah.
That's 8 stolen bases.
Right.
And 280.
Yeah. 280. Right. Yeah.
So
best case scenario, he's Owen Miller.
So okay. I'm just saying, yes, it is. I think it's time. I know people love Tim Anderson. I liked him. I did. I enjoyed the 2026 and then the 18 and 17.
Yeah, no, he's fun.
Seasons, those were great.
When he was doing the bat flips, he was fun. But yeah, he's a bit of a mess. So
yeah, the whole White Sox organization outside of like 2 players is kind of just spiraling.
Really.
Speaking of the White Sox, let's move to the bullpen. Gray, Kenyon Middleton got a save for the White Sox on Sunday. Graveman's last opportunity came on 6/24. That was a blown save. So is there potential that the Graveman's lost a little bit of grip here, or was this just kind of like, all right, Graveman, take a few days off. We're going to let Middleton have this one?
I think it's probably, at worst, it's a timeshare with Graveman and everyone else. Like, I don't think it's Middleton and Graveman. I think it's like probably Graveman, Middleton, Kelly, Lopez. Like, it's probably Graveman and everyone. So I would still go with Graveman if you had to Like if you were desperate for saves, like I don't think it's a great spot to be speculating in shallower leagues, because even if like the White Sox aren't good, Graveman is in a bit of a committee, and Hendricks probably isn't back until the All-Star game, but when he comes back, he's going to be the closer. So, yeah, it's not a great situation for Graveman.
Yeah, so use him, you can use him while he's here. He's fine. He's fine while he's getting the save opportunities, but as you mentioned, it's going to be a little bit of a split even if he's kind of the top guy. And as soon as Liam Hendricks looks good, he's getting a job back. I don't know that I believe Liam Hendricks is going to look good this season, though. Like there's a lot to come back from here. I'm really happy to see him on the baseball field, but him producing at the same level, I don't know if that happens this year. Moving on, over in Arizona, Scott McHugh has 4 saves since middle of June, so just over a couple of weeks, or just around a couple of weeks, he's got 4 saves. It seems like he's finally the guy in Arizona.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think he's got the job. I don't think it's even a committee anymore in Arizona. As I say that, watch, Chafin gets the next save or something. But but I think McHugh he's the guy. He's been pitching well too, so there's no reason to not, grab him in any league. He's been good. He looks like the closer for currently a first place team. So yeah.
Yeah. Might as well ride that if he happens to be out there. Definitely go scoop him up. Meanwhile, the Dodgers are just a guessing game, seemingly game to game. Is there anybody? Is it Evan Phillips? Are you going with Brewster? Who do you want in Dodgerland?
I've been holding Evan Phillips in most leagues, just like basically set it and forget it type scenario with Ron Popeil, RIP Ron, set it and forget it, man. Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's necessarily like Evan Phillips, that is, not Ron. I don't think Evan Phillips is necessarily like the guy, but he's been good. Like if you look at his numbers, other than the occasional blow up, and not even a blow up, like he gives up a run here and there, but he's been good. Like his stats are solid. So I've just put Phillips in my lineup every week, and if he gets a save, he gets the save. I think he's the top guy in the Dodgers right now in the pen. Maybe when Hudson comes back, it changes, but right now I think it's Phillips and then the other guys. So, I would, at this point, in most leagues, I would only go Phillips. Like, if you're really desperate, I guess Gratterall is kind of interesting, but I'm going Phillips.
Yeah, and Gratterall hasn't been striking people out like he has before, so even his interest level is definitely dropped to some extent, even as a secondary guy that gets the occasional save. Nard Dog, Alex Nardi got his first save of the season.
Andrew. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sorry, Andrew. I just messed it up in my head there. But I'd say it's still Puck's job. Just, Nardi has his own followers now. So
Yeah, no, totally. And I think Andrew Nardi, much like Brazaban was, and Grant Anderson, who I just mentioned before when we were talking about the Andersons. The Andersons. What is this? The Matrix? I think Nardi is worth rostering in a lot of leagues who, just for the ratios and the Ks. So, because he's been great. Nardi's been like really solid, and he's lucked into 5 Vulture wins. So, yeah, I would say Nardi is a solid bet, even if he doesn't get saves, which he's probably not going to get saves other than the occasional, if Puck is, but if Puck isn't necessarily the best bill of health usually. So Puck could go down at any point, and Nardi looks like a solid fill-in, and then Floro is, he's there too. So he could potentially get saves if something were to happen. As of right now, AJ Puck is the guy in Miami.
yeah, I would think so. And Miami's not been that bad this year. So, I mean, they are looking at winning to some extent. Um, I would say maybe the biggest thing against Nardi is just the team he plays for, which is Miami, and their tendency to keep costs down on guys. And we know that saves tend to increase arbitration costs. So that might be the biggest hindrance is just they don't want him to have too many saves or to be labeled a closer overall. Let's give the people some pickups and then we'll get out of here, Gray.
Okay, cool. So Miguel Garcia looks like not only a not a hot potato as much as like he looks like he could potentially have rest of the season value. I wouldn't be surprised if we're back here doing a Miguel Garcia segment. Miguel Garcia segment at some point on the podcast. Like he looks solid. Like he looks like he could potentially stick even on shallower mixed leagues. Mike Tuchman has been good for the Cubs. I don't think that lasts necessarily, but Ross seems to really like him. He's been batting him leadoff a lot of times. Whenever there's a righty pitching, it seems like Tuchman is the guy that Ross goes to. Heimer Candelario has been solid recently. He's been hitting. I think he had a home run on Monday. He's been good even outside of that. I mentioned Andy Ibanez earlier. He's been hitting well. He seems to only face lefties, though, so you got to probably platoon him in and out. Tristan Casas has actually been good for like 2 months now. He's been really solid, even sneaky for average. He's been sneaky good. The best Yankees hitter, Billy McKinney. I mean, as everyone predicted in the beginning of the season, the number one Yankees guy, Billy McKinney. You gotta get in on that McKinney guy. He's good. Gonna be better than Aaron Judge, I'm hearing. So yeah. Drew Waters also it seems like he's been a little bit hot. So yeah. Oh, and JP Crawford. Yeah. So there's some guys for you.
Yeah, I think that's some good names there. I mean, Tim Anderson wishes he could be Miguel Garcia. That's how it is right now.
That's true.
So yeah, I'll give you some pitching matchups this week. Just Kyle Bradish versus Minnesota, Griffin Canning versus Arizona, Dean Kramer, and I'm just going to throw him in with Kyle Bradish. Every single week I do this until their ownership is appropriate. Andrew Abbott gets Baltimore and at Washington this week. Johan Oviedo versus Milwaukee. He's another one. I'm just going to keep throwing his name in here until his ownership gets up. Luis Ortiz versus San Diego. Julio Teheran. I don't know that I'm believing it, but he keeps doing it. So he's got a 2-start week at the Mets and at Pittsburgh. Not overly terrified.
If you would have drafted Julio Teheran at 8 overall instead of Corbin Burnes right now, you would be getting burned at a stake because they'd be like, "You're a witch. You are a witch."
Who did you pay? What did you know?
What do you know? You're a witch. We're burning you.
This is facts. 100% facts.
Someone is trying to see if you can float.
If you weigh more than a duck. Tyler Anderson versus Arizona, and Martin Perez has cleaned it up after a little bit of a bumpy start. He gets versus Detroit versus Houston this week. So if you got 2-start guys, especially Martin Perez, where he doesn't get Ks in each matchup, but if he can kind of get them over the week, the weekly number doesn't look so bad. So in 2-start weeks, Martin Perez is definitely one of those guys that looks a little bit better. All right, Gray, that's all I got. If you have any specific questions, go out on YouTube. Find us in the comments at youtube.com/RazballFantasy. Find us on Razball.com and ask us questions there, or out on Twitter. I am at RazBeaton. Gray is, of course, the owner of the @Razball account. Gray, until next week, I will talk to you later.
All right, thanks.